Which ones are you, Dave, or am I? Okay, we got this. All right, howdy. How's everyone doing today? Good. It's last talk. Well, not last talk, but we're the middle of the lunch and drink slot, which is always my favorite. You're all going to be churning away with thoughts, so this is a good way to go. My name's Ryan Cove. This is my colleague Dave Harold. We like to cosplay Christmas Vacation, so that's the first thing you should know. We're here to talk to you about 10-ish holiday gift ideas for the SOC who has everything. I will warn you, this is actually a SIM-heavy presentation. A little bit shocking for this presentation today, but we are going to be going to SIM a little bit. First off, disclaimer, we lean a little bit forward of our company here. So things we say, don't buy stock. Don't believe Dave, he lies all the time. About 60% of his content is completely fabricated. We are going to be going through some things that have not been 100% released yet by our legal department, so just hold on and wait for those. Almost everything we talk about today is free, and if it isn't, we're going to put a big red flag and say not free. So we make it very clear. As I said, my name is Ryan Kovar, former threat hunter at DARPA before I came to Splunk. I've been at Splunk now for about 3 years, almost 4. I'm on the security specialist team, which means I kind of travel all over the world, help out users do cool things with Splunk, help out with incident response, build things, talk at conferences, do blog posts, and a whole bunch of other things.
Hey guys, I'm Dave Harold. I also work at Splunk for my day job. I've been doing IT and security for quite a while. A lot of different roles throughout the years, running small one-man security programs. So that last presentation hit home. But I've been a security architect, and I kind of joined the vendor side of the world a few years back. I'm a GSE, SANS mentor over the years a few times. One of the big things that Ryan and I have worked on over the past couple of years is something called Boss of the SOC, which is a blue team capture the flag exercise that we use for training and for just sort of up-leveling blue teamers using Splunk and trying to develop their SOC. So we're pretty excited actually to play the Net Wars sim tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. So go forward.
So as you can tell, Dave and I have almost 40 years of experience of doing a whole bunch of things, from bicycling to sysadmin to running networks on U.S. Navy ships. We are experts at exactly what we say today, specifically, and nothing else. So if you have a problem with something we say, don't challenge us on stage. Obviously, that would be a bad idea. But all seriousness, we're going to go through pretty rapid fire, so we're going to take questions at the end.
All right, cool. I think we might be one of the few kind of overt SIM vendors that was lucky enough to get a spot to speak here. We don't take that lightly, so we're going to do every single possible thing that we can to not make this into any kind of a sales presentation at all. So mostly what we want to talk about today are things outside of a SIM that are useful. Most of them, if not all of them, are free that you can integrate with. Now what we have available to us to integrate with is Splunk, so there's going to be a lot of examples that refer to Splunk, but most of these things can be integrated with any SIM, right? So bear with us on that. We're the ones within Splunk that try to address, interface with the community and not be salesy. Okay, that's our role in the company actually. So we will do everything in our power to achieve that.
So we are big fans of giving credit. This is a very small community. We've taken a lot from many people in this room who are here presenting and such forth. We always like to give out specific credit. And we didn't realize it, but today the person we want to give a lot of credit to is someone who's been mentioned in something like 3 or 4 presentations, and that's Florian Roth. If you haven't seen his work, he's the author of the Sigma project we talked about. He is probably the single largest openly sharing contributor to the Yarra rules. I've never met him in person. He's supposed to be a great guy. Just want to give him a nod. We're going to be mentioning his work several times today. If you're not familiar with him, start following him immediately. Follow his GitHub repos and do what you can to suckle upon that knowledge. He's a great guy.
Cool. Okay, so the talk today, we're trying to have some fun with the holiday theme. So we're trying to give you guys 10 holiday gifts for the SOC that has everything, right? Some of these things are amazing gifts, right? And some of them are little stocking stuffers, okay? And you'll see which ones are which as we go through this. So just to set some expectations. By the way, those socks are pretty cool. Christmas is coming
socks.
up.
Socks and
Just want to
jocks.
let you know. Spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so the first gift. So this is one of the really cool outcomes of that boss of the SOC thing that we run at Splunk. And that is that we generate data sets that have become actually quite useful in their own right, not just during the competition, but just as a test bed or even something you can do research on. So we actually have made this available for free. So what we did when we created this competition is we created a realistic lab. We ran real exploits against a bunch of systems like it was a small company. We created a bunch of background noise, right? Legitimate background data from systems that weren't being compromised, and we took a lot of care to meticulously sort of replicate that. So there's a lot of large haystack around the needle, if you will. We were lucky enough to be able to open source that data. We have 2 versions of it. One was created about 1.5 years ago, and that's the one that we've open sourced. And that's available. So if you guys want to download it, check it out. You can download it as something that's easy to search in Splunk right away without much work, or you can download it as JSON or CSV. We've got a lot of friends using this already in different machine learning platforms and all sorts of different ways, kind of looking at this data, using it for like testing machine learning and that sort of thing. So what is this data? It's realistic attack data, like I said, realistic background noise. We have like 20-some different data types in there. It's very heavy on sysmons. There's a ton of sysmon data in there. There's a lot of things like just regular Windows events, registry changes, wire data. Similar to what you might get from Bro. It's using a product called Splunk Stream, but it's similar in that it will give you summaries of different protocols, so HTTP summaries, DNS, DHCP, et cetera. And then we have firewall data and a few other things. So if you want to check that out, I highly recommend it. One of the things that we did, moving on to the second one that we wanted to talk about, it's already been mentioned several times today, but the Sigma repository of open source detection rules. So before we recommended that, we wanted to make sure that it was something worth recommending, right? And we had every reason to believe it was, but we thought it'd be fun to test it, right? And so we tested it against that bots data, which is pretty cool. So, but a little bit about Sigma first. So Sigma is, it's been mentioned a couple times today, but it's a rule specification. It's an open repository of rules expressed in that open specification. And there's a converter that comes with Sigma to convert those universal signatures into searches that you can run in various platforms. So there's a converter for Splunk, for Elastic, and I think 1 or 2 others are available as well. So what I did, just to kind of test out some of these hypotheses, I thought it'd be really cool to see if Sigma could find stuff in our bots data set. So in order to do that, we said, hey, let's focus on sysmon, because I know I have a lot of sysmon data. I know there's some bad things happening in that data set, and I know that Sigma, actually, as was mentioned earlier, has some really great Windows detections built into it. So we took the sysmon rules from Sigma. There was like 40 some of them out of the 148 rules were sysmon-specific rules. We converted them using the converter that comes with Sigma. I did it manually, which worked pretty well. There was a few tweaks you had to make to the output of the converter to actually make the searches run exactly right. A little bit of plumbing. That worked okay. There's also, if you're a Splunk user, there's a free app that has all of those Sigma rules already converted for you and packaged up very nicely by a gentleman who's a big contributor to the Splunk community. He publishes that. He also publishes his PowerShell script that he used to create that app. So that might be a little bit of a time saver if you're interested in that. But let's look at the results. So one of the things that we recommend and we see our smart customers doing is testing things, right? Holding us accountable for being able to actually do what we say we can do, right? So we actually do that as well when people ask us for reviews of products and things like that, or ideas within Splunk. And we've gotten into this we've sort of gotten into this habit of using our bots data as a test for these things, and it's kind of a litmus test, right? If you can find the badness in the bots data, then it's probably a good thing. If you can't, if this thing that purports to find badness can't find something in that data set, then it doesn't pass that gate, right? So it was really cool. Sigma found all kinds of stuff in our bots data set. It found one of the big scenarios is a macro, an Office macro that's running some malicious commands. Found that. A few other rules, found a web shell that was also part of that data, which was pretty cool to see that right out of the box. That leads me to sort of believe that the Sigma stuff is great. You never want to just turn on, a whole bunch of new rules without understanding what they're searching for, and if you can respond to them and those sorts of things. But it definitely passed the litmus test. Definitely goes into the stocking stuffer for this year. And we're looking forward actually to doing some more testing there and maybe contributing some rules back to Sigma as well.
Cool. So I'm a big fan of triaging. We learned this quite a bit in the Navy, although usually it involves someone with a giant hole in their torso. Once I went into DFIR and doing hunting, what we do a lot is when you get an alert, you have to then figure out, do I spend time on this? Do I not? How far down the rabbit hole? And I find, just like the triage I learned in the Navy, the DFIR triage, first 15 minutes is kind of golden, right? Like, that's where you're going to make your yay or nay, red light, green light. Do we go down? Do we not? I'm a big fan of a lot of Baitlick's methods. I know there's some Baitlick proteges in the audience here today. And one of the things in his book that the practice of network security monitoring brings up is the idea of just basically this workflow, right? And a SIEM, Security Incident Event Management tool, focuses really on the collection and detection aspect of this, right? So in the detection, it's collecting data in, it's analyzing it, and it's running an alert. Your job as an analyst, once an event comes up, is really to then collect more data to determine if you actually have to do something or not. Is this truly bad? Is that malware, ransomware that we can clean with McAfee, or is it actually an APT or something along those lines? This is a huge part of a job for an analyst, whether they're junior or senior. And my goal is always to reduce that effort, because I'm inherently lazy, right? I think the best analysts are always lazy. My job is write a script whenever I can, and that's kind of what we're going through here. So let's do a little role playing here. You have a network that has a bit of a bear problem. It's running around with teacups and really fancy monocles and taking your data out, right? Happens to the best of us. You're a good incident responder person, so you find them, you go off, you find free threat intelligence, maybe you buy some threat intelligence, you put that threat intelligence, or really threat data, into your SIEM, and you start alerting off of things, right? Well, hopefully nothing happens, but the reality is if you've been targeted once, you're probably going to have a bad day in the future. That's why we all have jobs. So let's look at this. One day you have an incident, right? So you've had previous incidents with APT28. You put in your threat data, you're running through, and all of a sudden your SIEM generates an alert saying that a host has connected to kava.center.info. That's a real IOC from the APT28 FireEye report. It's now been sinkholed, so it's completely benign. But you don't know that. Somebody's communicating that. That's not good, right? But is it actually bad, or is it just some drive-by, something going on? What's happening here on this workstation, right? You don't know. You have to go do that collection of further data. Well, this is something, right? It's a little known fact, but many people do not ingest endpoint data into their SIEM. I've heard rumors it's expensive. I don't know. I can't hear it in my Ferrari as I drive down the freeway. But there's a lot of different methods around that you can just think about in other words, right? Like, you don't always have to ingest endpoint log data completely. You can be very selective on it. I kind of want to give you an example of this, right? I like to call it the SIEM 9000, right? I want my SIEM to be more than just something that alerts. I want it to be an extra analyst for me. I want it to go off and do analysis. I want it to do something where I can go get a beer from my kegerator, because I work at Splunk, it's pretty awesome. So while it's doing that, it's generating all that stuff, and I can come back and decide whether or not I'm going to do something. So let's try a little use case here, right? Automating your local Yarra scan. How many people here use Yarra? That's not nearly enough hands, right? This is one of those powerful tools available for a blue teamer. This is everything to me. I use this every day when I do incident response. And like I said, I'm pretty lazy. So if I'm doing something every day, I'm failing. I need to have more time for Reddit and less time for work, right? So what do we do here? What's my idea? Why don't I have the SIEM do this, right? Let's automate the mundane, right? If the first thing I do after an incident happens is run an appropriate Yarra signature on that host, why am I doing that? I paid a shit ton of money for a computer, right? Let's see what that looks like. So here we have enterprise security. This is our SIEM for sale for a very reasonable price by your local vendor. You'll notice here we have up front a little bit of an alert pop up. Oh no, we got the APT28s. But you'll notice I have it on medium. The urgency is medium. Why? It's a network communication from a host. If we look at David Bianco's pyramid, right, that's pretty low. I don't really know if that's 100% bad. Network IOCs are temporal. I happen to know that one's almost 4 years old. Do I really want to spin up an incident or not? No, I'm going to go collect data off of that host. So I'm going to run Yarra on the local host. A wide variety of ways to do this. In this case, in this proof of concept, what I've done is actually deployed Yarra on a network and actually can execute it from Splunk or any other way. PowerShell, wide variety of different ways, right? You'll notice I have two different signatures there, APT28, APT3. Now I'm going to run it. Now we use, in Splunk world, adaptive response. Elastic has something similar, Logarithm has something similar, OSIM has something similar, $SIM, right? Everyone has something similar to this. You can run it manual, or you can run it automatic. Depends on your appetite for destruction. So I'm going to run this on the local host. This is actually the Yarra signature I'm going to be running. You'll notice Florian wrote this, of course, because he's everywhere. And what do we find? Yarra will actually write out, if you output it to a CSV, you actually get a little alert of everything it finds. What does Splunk love? CSVs. Ingest that back into your SIEM, and now I have a high critical alert, right? We had an event that looked bad, but I wasn't sure, and then I run a second investigation where I collected more data with much more, a much better fidelity of an indicator, a signature, and I found more activity. Now I'm spinning up the team, right? So that's your present.
Okay, next one's a little stocking stuffer that we thought we would throw in here because there's such obvious ties to SANS. That's integration with typical DFIR tools, right? So one thing that I've used a lot in the past is Super Timeline. I'm sure all of you have as well. We teach it in SANS 508 and probably some other classes as well. Which allows you, obviously, right, Super Timeline allows you to pull a timeline from everything from the file system to the registry, to Windows events, to application level data, to web history, et cetera, and put all that in one timeline for analysis. One way to analyze this, right, is to use an Excel spreadsheet. You guys have all seen the Excel template for Super Timeline. I always had trouble with it, sort of, conking out, right, with Excel sort of tipping over with large, multi-hundred gigabyte, or megabyte, I should say, multi-hundred megabyte Super Timeline. So what we did is created a way to analyze this inside of Splunk. So this is a point where this is all free, so you can download the free version of Splunk, download some free apps. Obviously, creating a Super Timeline is free. And you can analyze multiple different Super Timelines in a tool that can handle larger amounts of data, right? So this gives you the ability to look at multiple different Super Timelines, to combine them together, to search across different systems, search across different source types. I think I'm saying all this stuff. Specify time ranges and do ad hoc searching, and then give you the same familiar color coding, right, that came from that conditional formatting in the old spreadsheet. And so this is just a very simple, free way to analyze this data. The tie-in to SIEM, of course, is once it's in Splunk, right, or in a system like this, you can refer back to it, right? So you can include a link to this very easily to the search in your investigation, and then you can have sort of that view of your forensic analysis of a system. So I actually wrote this a couple of years ago. I came to a SANS conference, and I just felt compelled to do something with this for some reason, and never really showed it to anybody, so we put it in here as a stocking stuffer for today. If you want to check it out, there's a couple of free Splunk apps out on GitHub. There's some work that was done on this quite a number of years ago by a gent named Nick Klein, so you might see some of his stuff out there as well. So I threw a link to his one of his demos as well.
Cool. So labeling your rules, right? Dave and I travel Stockholm to Stuttgart to Singapore. We travel all over the world. We're both 100,000 plus miles, hundreds of customers around the world. What we primarily do is go talk to people and try to make their lives better. I actually rarely talk about Splunk. It's almost all just security stuff and how to do better security that then eventually someone else helps them with Splunk. One of the biggest things I see for SIEMs, though, is too many damn rules, right? If you have a deployment of a SIEM that's 10 years old, you probably have 90% of your rules actually are overlapped, don't matter, you don't know what they do. The guy who created them left, died, got rich, doesn't matter, he's not there, you don't know what it is. You have 4 rules for FTP. Why do you have 4 rules for FTP? You have no clue, right? It's just a fact of life. You get SIEM rule creep, right? It's creepy SIEM rules, that's what I call them. It's when things look the same, you can't really tell the difference, you can't look at it, and my God, it's hard to help junior analysts, right? You hire someone new, the first 3 months is just going, well, that one's slightly different because it's passive FTP, not, well, hold on, you know what, never mind, I'll just do your job, right? So here's an idea. It's not original. I'm not an original person. SIEM taxonomy, right? Make a rule taxonomy for your organization that works that you can then quickly figure out what it is. This is so not original. Snort has been doing this for 25 years. I don't know why vendors don't do this for SIEM rules. This is very simple things. Any person can do this. You just have to have an organizational mind and devotion and a change control board and GitHub and repos and all that. Other than that, though, it's super easy. But it really comes down to 3 simple things. A global identifier, right? This puts it in a category. A SID, which is a unique ID. And then a revision, right? So how many times has it been revised? And author. So as you saw, that was all within the realm. Workday, which is a customer of Splunk's, actually presented on this very thing at one of our global conferences. This is an example of what they do. 4002-exp-title name, right? They have a modified kill chain. So for them, 4 annotates something in their kill chain. 02 is just a second, so it's just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then the revision number, they don't actually use in this case. I like the revision number. EXP means it's in the exploit category, means something to them. And then the name of the rule. But they take it a little further, and I really like this, and I recommend everyone do this. If you don't have an explanation of what a rule does, you probably shouldn't have that rule, right? This goes into change configuration boards. Yes, they suck, but you know what? That prevents that creep from coming over into your rules, right? They use a wiki page. You can see it kind of goes through each rule, easily gone through, and they love that 4 numbers. It's very easy for them to visually identify what that rule likely does, how long it's been there, and when and where.
Those guys do some cool stuff too. Just on that last one, they measure really closely their false positive rates as well, and then they correlate that back with changes. So then after a change is made, they can see has our false positive rate gone up or gone down, and use that to ultimately write better rules. So they're pretty cool advanced organization. Okay, so endpoint data on demand. So this is a cool one. This one is a little bit on the edge just because it's not available today, but it was so exciting to us that we wanted to include it. One of the things that we always have people asking us is, hey, right from my SIEM, I want to be able to reach out and pull data off of an endpoint. I want to understand who's logged in or what processes are running or what files exist on that system or what have you. And we've never had a fantastic answer to that. And so we rely on, say, hey, well, there's commercial tools that you can get. You can try to use something like OSQuery, for example. And just recently, as a result of a hackathon, we saw this really, really cool result. So we thought we'd share it with you guys. So I'm sure you know what OSQuery is, right? It's an agent that you can run on your endpoints. It supports Windows and Mac and Linux. It allows you to literally pull everything from fan speeds to patches to installed files, users, groups, really any characteristic of a machine almost, it seems, you can pull from pull using OSQuery, right? And we've used this for a long time, and a lot of folks use OSQuery. It's mostly developed by Facebook and pushed by Facebook. They put a huge amount of investment into it. And we've always been able to basically say, okay, you can install these agents on a machine, you can run some queries over time, you can log those results, you can send them wherever you want. If it's in our world, you'd use our universal forwarder. to send to Splunk and do your analysis. And we do this exact thing a lot. If anybody ever gets a chance to play our bots game, we do this exact thing quite a bit in our version 2 of the game. And there's an app out there that supports that, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about something that's cooler. It's on layaway, unfortunately, so and also see the disclaimer. But we have a good reason to believe this is going to see the light of day and be free-ish. So we're pretty stoked. So basically, what we've done is created this ability for OSQuery clients to connect into Splunk. And send all their results to Splunk as though Splunk were an OSQuery server, if you will. And so like this is just showing some different systems that are connected, that they're connected basically in real time and multi-platform. But what can we do, right? So the cool thing is that an analyst in the process of doing an investigation can essentially say, I want to ask a question of one of my endpoints. So I want to say, hey, what are the listening ports, for example, on that system? So you can select an OSQuery query. We've included, or this demo has included a whole bunch of them, not all of them, but a lot of them that are sort of predefined. You can run it against different hosts, so it's pretty cool. So you can say, hey, select star from listening ports, but do that against a Mac, do that against a Windows machine, a Linux box. It doesn't matter, and OSQuery sort of takes care of that. And the results come back and shows you like Netstat style listening ports, but that's now stored in your SIEM, and it's available for you to go back and retrieve that later. There's a query ID that you can use and add that to your investigation. You can click back and say, hey, when my analyst asked that question of that endpoint, here were the results back in time. When you see this run in real time, it's all like immediate, which is super cool, I think. Just takes a couple of seconds to do these queries. So we were pretty excited about that to see. Again, this is something you can generally do in other tools, swiveling to a different system, right? But it was pretty cool to see it actually happening sort of in a SIEM, right? So a couple details on that. There's no Splunk software on the endpoint. It's just literally stock OSQuery. TLS transport can be both on demand and scheduled. So if you want to run some of those queries on a regular basis and store those results, you can do that. And also not available yet, but will be soon. And we're pretty, I don't know, we're pretty hard to please, but we saw that demo and we were like, how do we buy that? So we thought, hey, we should show that to the SANS folks as a little stocking stuffer.
Okay. So I'm going to go quickly through this. Tipping your SIEM. This is something I'm pretty passionate about and also something I've discovered when I've been traveling the world. First, what is a TIP? A threat intelligence platform, right? This is a tool that allows you to curate indicators of compromise or threat intelligence, actual threat intelligence, in a collaborative platform. It allows you to share, lets you do hopefully bilateral transfer of indicators of compromise from servers up to your threat intelligence platform, add context, do a whole bunch of cool things, right? There's a lot of commercial threat star, pick your threat and then add a word and you have a new threat intelligence platform out there. I love these three, which are open source. Crits is the world's best tool to make you slam your head into a wall 100 times. If you have REs, they love it. If you're a SIEM engineer or a blue teamer, you hate it, but it does cool things for collaboration. MISP is the new hot kid on the block. It's pretty cool, heavily loved in Europe. I really like it. It has great API access, and they seem to have a vibrant community. Yeti is very, very new. I know a couple people using it. I haven't played with it that much myself. All of these have awesome APIs. So why am I talking about this? Time and time and time again, I go to customers and I go to sites and they're trying to do curation of indicators of compromise on their SIEM. And at first they're like, hey, it's going to be fun. We'll get a couple beers, start editing IOCs. It'll be a good time. In reality, what happens is you just fall in the mud, right? SIEMs are not great at threat intelligence curation. Utilize a third-party platform to actually do the curation, do the sharing, and do things like that. Let your SIEM be the receiver and the customer of proper curation, and you're going to have a much better day in your life for an enterprise organization.
Somehow that timing worked out perfectly.
It did.
On that.
The second part of this is, I'm not going to go into the details on this because every vendor and every tip has a different API access. RTFM.
Okay, so our last one for the day. You guys know about CyberChef? Who uses CyberChef in here? Anybody?
That's not enough people either. Homework. All of you have homework.
CyberChef is this like amazingly cool web-based tool that we've kind of fallen in love with, over the last year or so. So let me just talk about it a little bit. So CyberChef, it's a web-based tool developed by GCHQ in the UK, open sourced. It has, it's Apache too. You can read all the license and copyright. It's available on GitHub. But the thing that CyberChef allows you to do very, very quickly is convert just about any kind of data from one format to another. Okay, so base 64 encoding, or taking a SHA hash, or unzipping a file even. Converting from Morse code, converting to hex, and etc. It allows you to do this really, really easily in a very intuitive interface. I'll show it to you in just a second. But it strikes me as something that can save you a lot of time in your SOC, right? Because you're constantly having to decode data or encode data or what have you. Some cool things. It's web-based. Once you sort of get into the CyberChef interface, everything's done in JavaScript in the browser, so there's not any network traffic to worry about. Very powerful and programmable and extensible. So kind of something to take home. We'll give you the link to it in a second, but we created some little workflow actions, which is like a little piece of glue in Splunk land that allows you to pivot right from a field into some other system. So we wrote some workflow actions for CyberChef. So this is a very simple Splunk search. It's not even our SIEM product. It's just Splunk searching. And we basically said, hey, for certain fields, we want to be able to send that field into CyberChef to do some more analysis. So that's what you're seeing there, is that those choices of those actions. When you get into CyberChef, this is a screenshot of the one that they run as a demo system, which you can use. You can also set up your own as well. But what this allows you to do, in this case, very simple. There's an input and an output over there on the right-hand side, and there's a recipe. And the input, right, is taking, in this case, it's ABCD 1, 2, 3, 4. That was the value that was in Splunk. That we pivoted off of, and then what CyberChef does in this case is we're saying, hey, convert that to base 64. But we can do well, and then the output shows the base 64 output. But there's tons and tons, probably hundreds. I haven't counted them, but there's like dozens, if not hundreds, of different recipes that you can use to convert different pieces of data to different formats. So in this case, Morse code, for example. I didn't even know this was a thing. But I convert my Morse code plea for help if anybody sees the output there.
It's true.
You can stack these things up, right? So you can put multiple recipes on top of one another. And so it's like a pipeline of data conversion. It becomes like a program. You can look at, you can basically step through it. You can tell it, hey, step through and show me at each step what that data looks like. You can save new recipes. You can save the output. You can take the output and turn it into the input. Do all sorts of cool things. A brief list of those is here. So this is literally just a small list of all the different things you can do. But I love it because I'm constantly like copying things out of my searches and like pasting it into like OpenSSL or something like that, right? To do like different sort of data conversions, and the more of those that I can standardize and just do within my SIEM, then I'm winning, right? And so this is just a quick list of a few of those. I won't read them off, but very, very powerful tool. Here's some links to the CyberChef stuff. Mostly it's just CyberChef is awesome, and I recommend using it. And then at the bottom there, if you ever want to integrate it with Splunk, there's a little bit of glue down there as well.
Cool. So we literally have 50 seconds left because we're greedy and we took all 35 minutes for just us. The whole point of this talk was SIMspiration, right? A lot of different ideas to pull into your SIEM. Doesn't matter, $SIEM. We use Splunk because that's who pays my bills. But you can use whatever. The important thing that I want you to get out of this talk is that SIEM should be the center for your analytical world, right? If you're just using it for incident events, you're going to have a lot of software you paid a lot of money for. You're not getting a lot of use out of it. If you have a global SOC, and you're trying to do collaborative work, it gets really hard really fast. Add in third-party integrations, automate the mundane. To Doug's point earlier, right? Supercharge your bicycle. Think harder, not think. Be lazy. Let's just go with that because I'm running out of steam. I'm Ryan Kovar. This is Dave Harold. We're going to post up the slides really fast. If you have questions, we're going to be here all week or for the next 2 days. Feel free to ask them then. Thank you very much.